Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of It Doesn't Have to Be Perfect. And I'm not going to lie to you, today's kind of a heavy one. And if you're not in the mood to just get a little sad or get a little reflective, that's okay. Click off maybe, go to a more fun one. But today we're talking about breakups because I recently have been going through a breakup myself. It's been about a month now, and I'm fine for the most part. I'm okay. I definitely have been taking this one like a champ, like reflecting on breakups in general. When you're like young, like my first heartaches were like, it felt like I was gonna die. Like it felt like I physically could not just get the will to continue if I didn't have them in my life. So the first like major like breakup that I would say I remember, like actual breakup, because like I've had heartache in the past, like when I was like young and I had crushes and like things that didn't work out, blah blah blah. But like my first time, I remember I was actually an 8th grader and my boyfriend was a 6th grader. And listen, before you start judging, let me explain this real quick. I was actually supposed to be in 7th grade because I was actually a little young. I graduated high school like at 17, and not because I was like ahead or anything, but because of my birthday. And this guy was also supposed to be a 7th grader because he was a little old to be in 6th grade, but because of his birthday, also kind of had the same dilemma but backwards. So we were both the same age, and we were dating maybe a year. Oh, dude, I don't even remember how long we dated for, actually. I think it was either a few months, almost close to a year, I want to say. No, I'm lying. I think it was only a few months. But I remember he was like the first guy that I made out with. He was like, we would go to the back of the library and like, catch some kisses here and there. And I think he was like the first person in real life who I really loved. And I'm not even going to get into internet loves. I might, but those are a trip. But yeah, so I remember my 8th grade boyfriend. He actually had to move away after graduation. He was moving to California, and I was so devastated. I was just like, my life is never going to be the same. And I remember we decided to go long distance as 8th graders. Well, he was technically a 7th grader by then. But anyways, we decided we're going to go long distance. And listen, we weren't even close to getting our driver's license. Like exceptionally him. But that's what we decided. And he ended up moving. And then a few days later after he moved, I hadn't heard from him. He was like kind of being quiet. And I remember he had given me his password to his Facebook. So I log in, and lo and behold, I see that he's messaging a new girl that he met at a family party. And they weren't related, don't worry. But like they met there and they had been texting, and my heart dropped. My heart was in my fucking asshole, okay? I was so heartbroken. I literally started bawling my eyes out. I told my mom about it. I was so heartbroken. And from there, like, I kind of went through a little deep dive on her from her not Instagram, her Facebook, and I kind of became obsessed. Not obsessed with her, but like I saw that she was like thinner than me, and she was like petite and like all this stuff. And that's when I started, like, the first time ever in my life that I started like actually like dieting. And we both know how that ended. But that was the first time I remember being like, okay, like let me just not eat a whole bag of hot Cheetos. Let me just eat one little bag. Instead of having 2 sandwiches, I'm gonna have my, one sandwich. And like started like exercising. And it was kind of like it started as kind of, I want to feel better about myself. I want to like, because I felt like ugly after seeing how she looked like, especially when you're about to be a freshman and you're in an awkward like development stage in your life. And I was just really experimenting with what I like to do for like workouts and stuff. And it was just really the early introductions. But my mom was kind of like a chronic dieter back in the day, which sucked because I didn't really have a hard time looking for what like tricks and tips I needed in order to start losing weight. And of course, when you're so young and you start doing that, of course you're going to drop like in a crazy amount of weight because you're young and your metabolism is like crazy. And yeah. And so after that heartache and me going on a diet, and then eventually this is around the time that I started to not get my period and I was full on anorexic. I didn't care about love. I just didn't have enough brain power. I remember there was even times in my life like that year that I would force myself to laugh at people's jokes because like I knew it was funny, but physically I was so exhausted and undernourished that I was just not, I didn't have the energy. I didn't head was empty and I was just so obsessed with that. So like my first year of high school, I didn't really care about love and I didn't really care. Like I had a boyfriend and I feel so, God bless his soul, but like me and him, like I ended things with him because I was just like going through a lot, and he was so great about it, so like graceful with it, didn't like badmouth me at all. He was such a gentleman. But yeah, I just like wasn't in a good headspace. So come around sophomore year, and I've talked about this in a previous episode, but that's when I met Rob. That's the code name that we're using for him. And me and him hit it off. And the first time that we broke up, dude, I was so devastated. And I mean, it was my fault, of course, but I was just so devastated. And it felt like I was literally dying. Like I was like, oh my God, this feeling is so like overwhelming. I don't know what to do with all this emotion. And I'm so grateful that now as an adult, breakups are still hard, but it doesn't feel like I'm like literally like losing a piece of my soul, because like you kind of, once you go through those heartaches at a young age, like when you're older, and I feel so sorry for the people that like didn't experience like heartache when they're young, because when you're older, it might be a little tougher to navigate. But I had already so much practice that, my recent breakup, I like, obviously I cried. Obviously I was sad about it, but like, it wasn't like a, oh my God, I'm gonna die. I'm like, no, I'm gonna be fine. It's gonna suck for a while, but I'm gonna be fine. Like I always figure it out. I always get through it. And so I'll be fine. But yeah. And then, okay, so there was the eighth grade love affair. And then there was Rob. And then the next like big heartache that I remember is my 2.5-year relationship that ended in like 2020. And with him, I remember I was like sad in a sense of like I kind of lost my identity because I was forming so much of my identity around him. And so that heartache was very confusing, because at least when you're like young, like you don't know like kind of who you are, and you're kind of you're or actually no, I'm going to take that back. It's more like you haven't really formed an identity. So it's like it doesn't really matter like if you lose someone, because you still have time to form a new identity. But I was already like in like early 20s when we broke up, and so like I was starting to form an identity, but around him and around our relationship and around basically playing housewife without the title. That yeah, I was just really going through it, especially because it ended like nicely. It ended on mutual terms, and actually I have beef with that dude, well, for a lot of reasons. But I don't want to act all high and mighty, because I feel like a lot of us like will be like, I want to be a mature one, and like, I hold no grudges. Like I have learned that taking the high road in some cases can be like, yes, like good for you. But there are some cases where it's like, I don't like, trust me, I'm not like still holding, it's not like heavy on my heart anymore, But I'm still like, ugh, you fucked me over. Like, I feel like for so long, I was not letting myself get mad about the situation. And I should have gotten mad about the situation. But back to my point, I was told by a friend of his actually that he was telling people that he broke up with me and that he was the one who just like decided to like end it because she wasn't, and I quote, she wasn't driven enough. Okay. Yeah, sure. That's why we broke up. Okay. Yeah, and when I heard this, I was like, bitch, you cried in my arms. Don't tell me that this breakup was not mutual. Like, you literally stopped in my arms. Like, I was there. Anyways, that's the beef I have with him, but who cares? Anyways, that was like literally like 5 years ago, almost half a decade, if you think about it. Oh, that's crazy. But yeah, and actually after that breakup, I get reached out to like a year and a half later, after me and him had like tried to rekindle stuff like twice, and it just wasn't working out because we just weren't a good fit. Like, I think this was subconscious, but I had turned into completely the person that he would hate. Like, well, we were like, after we broke up, I got so many tattoos. I went vegan. Can you tell I was going through it? I was going through so much, and like I was like, I think subconsciously like trying to repel him. I don't know how that makes sense, but I was trying to like, we were trying to rekindle, but like it wasn't working. But I think I just subconsciously like hated him, that I was like so hard like trying to make sure we didn't get back together. I was self-sabotaging, but like thank God I was doing that for myself subconsciously, like looking back at it now. But when we were like in the rekindling stages, he actually was on and off with someone else. And this girl, let's call her, I don't know, Melissa. I love Melissa, by the way. I'm just giving her a code name because I didn't really like think I was going to bring her up, but she is one of my best friends now. She's across the country, but she's still like one of my besties. I trust her with my life. She actually reached out to me and was like, hey, I think we dated this guy at the same time. And so she sends me the timelines and I'm like, yep, we both dated that fucker in the same time. He was trying to date both of us, or he was like deciding who he wanted to be with. So like literally like the day that me and him would end, he would hit her up, and it was like vice versa. And me and her met up, and it was so legendary. It was like an episode of like Cheaters, but without the guy. Obviously we didn't like go knock on his door because I would have been psychotic, but it would have been legendary, and I fully regret not doing that now because it would have been a great story. But we ended up meeting up and we talked about everything, and literally like to the T, he was just saying the same things, literally so unoriginal, the same things to both of us about how, oh, you know, friendship is like the greatest like foundation for a relationship, and that's why I want to be friends first, and like blah blah blah, but I still want to fuck you. Oh my god. And we were both just in awe, like, oh, so he said that you were crazy. Oh, he told me that you were crazy, but you're not crazy, and you're not crazy. What the hell? Like, it was just like so many things that overlapped that I was like, dude, at least like, listen, if you're gonna play those games, like at least like have like some interesting twist on it. Like, I don't know, spice it up, like do something different, like to recycle the same material, bro. Like, come on. You gotta get better at your improv. But yeah, she just became one of my closest friends, and we still stay communicated. And I actually follow some of his like friends from back in the day, but I don't know if they're still friends or not. I mean, obviously, so I don't know. But so like whenever I posted a photo with her, and I know they tell him, or they've told him at least like once, that me and her, you know, are like this now, and I completely love it. I devour it, especially because like me and her are so alike. I'm like, obviously you had a type, bro, like personality wise, you really had a type, because she was like so outgoing, so outspoken, and like just likes to like live her life fully. And yeah, that's my bestie. Shout out to you, girl. Melissa, you know. But yeah, and that was, I would say, the second wave of like my biggest heartache. But like at the same time, I don't think maybe it does have something to do with like how much you love a person, but like I think sometimes heartaches can also be like someone you just truly cared about. And I feel like this round of heartache is hitting me like very different from previous ones. Like I know that I'm gonna be fine, but it's kind of like a slow burn type of heartache of like, oh, like shit, like we're not gonna like do these things together, or like, oh, we're not gonna like have kids together, like, oh, we're not gonna, you know, it's like stuff that you're realizing of like, oh man, like this kind of sucks. It really does suck, because like I have lived my day-to-day life with this person, and now my day-to-day life is slowly changing, and it feels like it's the right thing but the wrong thing at the same time, you know? Like I have moments where I'm like, damn, like are we actually doing this? Like is this the right thing to do? And then we talk it over and we're like, yes, it's the right thing to do. It really sucks, and I just want to give a few tips on basically how to get through a breakup. I don't want to say like I'm going to give you tips on how to get over a breakup, because like you are going to get over it like within your own time frame, and everyone's process is different. And like it's really like there's a lot of universal factors to like breakups, but at the same time they're so complex and layered, and you know there's like just different situations that may impede you from moving on quicker than others. For example, like if you're living with someone, like if you're living with an ex, that can be a lot harder. Or like if an ex like moves across the country or like to another state or whatever, I think that's easier for sure, because it's like out of sight, out of mind. And yeah, it just depends on situation from situation. But I think for, well, speaking of like out of sight, out of mind, I would say my first tip would be to keep them out of sight, out of mind, to be honest. If you guys didn't end in good terms, block them. And that may sound toxic to some people, but I don't think it is really. Like I think it's like truly like in your own right to like, you can fully block someone, because like, or mute their stories, mute their posts. Like if you don't want to see that, you can 100% do that. And I think you should be able to do that. And that would be my first tip, because like I know it's like so hard to see someone every day, and like it's so hard to like move on when like they're still like involved in your life. But if you are able to, and you guys just both ended it, and you don't need to see each other every day, and you don't want to remain friends, I would say definitely keep them out of sight, out of mind. Way easier to get over someone when they're just like not in your day-to-day life. And I would say my second tip is like just stay close to family and friends. Community is so important. Like with any milestone in your life and any like breakup or hardship, having people to talk to, or even not to talk to, people you can just like sit there with and watch TV, and like they know you're going through it, but like you both like you just need a distraction. Having like leaning on your community 100%, you have to do it. Like you have to do it. It's so vital to your well-being. Just socializing in general, you know, you may not want to socialize in new settings, so like that's okay. Like lean on your family and talk it out. Just talk it out. Or like I said before, don't talk, and you know they're gonna be there for you, because that's just what family does. That's what friends do, you know, at least true friends. So I would say my third tip is just keep busy. And I don't mean in a way of like avoidant and avoiding your feelings. I think you should definitely feel your feelings. It's not something to be ashamed of, and not something that you have to hide from. But I think that people mistake keeping busy and like feeling your feelings with avoidance, and that's not true. Like I think like the worst thing that I did for myself is think that staying at home all day, feeling everything alone, doing nothing was the right way to heal. And that's not true at all. In order to heal, you have to continue living your life and feeling it. You don't have to avoid it, nor do you have to sit around and mourn all day doing nothing to make you better, or to like, you can just like stop living your life at the end of the day. And I think that's what I did a lot back then. I thought that feeling my feelings was just staying at home and only thinking about that. And that's just like not healthy, So I would say do all the hobbies that you have been putting off. Go horseback riding. Go to a pottery shop and learn how to like paint your own pottery. Go, I don't know, to like a knitting class. Go to Pilates. Go to the gym. Go to, I don't know, make a pool party with your friends. Like, go visit your family. Go on a, road trip. Go to a new local cafe. Go to like, what are those like theaters where like they bring you drinks and snacks and stuff. Do literally anything, like, and feel your feelings, but like be doing something. The best thing that you can do, like when you're feeling anxious, I would say, is moving your body, letting those feelings out. Okay, like have something to like basically shake off those feelings by moving your body. I think something that I learned from one of my internships, and actually my supervisor, she was like an older lady. She was super nice. I remember she told me that like, since she was like what's it called, like a PE teacher, I think they changed the name of it now, but like she was basically a PE teacher, and she told me that these kids, like they need to let out the little wiggles, the little, what did she call it? She called it something very specific, but I remember thinking like, that's true. Like, when you're feeling a lot, like the best thing to do is like move through that and not just be stagnant, because that's just going to make you feel worse. Say for example, like you have an argument with someone. The best way to have an argument is by going on a walk, because it's very hard to be upset when you're on a walk. And I remember reading about an article about this. There was a study done that basically showed that, yeah, like when you're basically going through something and you want to not be too upset about it, take a walk, because when your peripheral vision is like stimulated, it like helps you process it better. And I think that's just very cool information that that I learned, and I think it's literally a lifesaver. But yeah, go on a walk, talk it out, and do something. Just do something. Create something. Film a little TikTok maybe, or learn a little dance, or I don't know, like write something for a book you want to start writing. But yeah, I would say that's the advice that I have for dealing with a breakup. It's just going to happen at your own pace, and don't rush it. Don't feel pressured to also get under someone to get over someone. Like, that's not necessarily the best way to heal. It could be for some people. I mean, I've definitely been guilty of it, so I wouldn't blame you, but like whatever feels right to you, I would say whatever feels right to you. And if that feels right to you, I mean, hats off to you. Do your thing. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for this episode. My cats are fighting now. They're making so much noise. So yeah, I'm going to leave it here. Thanks for listening, and thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.